I think one of the biggest shocks that I see first-time home buyers have whenever they reach out and we kind of start talking through the process of getting a mortgage and whatnot, is actually closing costs. What happens is a lot of people call and they say, "Hey, Travis, I want to get a loan. What do I do?" And so we'll start kind of talking through stuff. And next thing I know, we're talking and we're talking down payment. And then whenever I bring up closing costs, a lot of people are like, "Hold on a minute, what is that?" And so it's something that I'm noticing that a lot of people don't really speak about. The headlines and everything just talks about, 3% down, 3.5% down, whatever it may be, depending on the loan product. But what people don't talk about a lot that I notice is actually closing costs. Now, this video, we're not going to get directly into what each closing cost is and all the nitty gritty on it. But I do think it's important that people understand that it's not just the down payment whenever you're buying a home. So for example, if you're a first-time home buyer and you talk to a loan officer, and you may think you have 3% of the down payment saved up based on the purchase price or whatnot, and then you're thinking you're golden, and then next thing you know, if your loan officer kind of explains everything in great detail to you, you get to the point to where you're looking at total out-of-pocket costs, meaning what is it going to take out of your pocket to be able to actually get into this home and make it yours. And it catches people off guard whenever they're not expecting closing cost, prepaids like insurance prepaids and all that kind of stuff. And I told you we're not going to get into it, but it is something that I'm seeing a pattern in. And something to remember is closing costs, they're not optional. They are a part of the process. And it on any loan that you're going to buy, there's going to be closing costs. Now, there's ways to get assistance or help maybe from the seller to be able to offset some of your costs out of pocket for that. But it's overwhelming whenever first-time home buyers don't know that, because they walk in and they start conversations and they think they're ready. And this may be you, for instance. They think they're ready. And then when we get to the point to where we're talking about closing costs, they're like, whoa, 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 I don't have that much money. What do we do? What do we need to do? And so what that eventually does is it stresses people out. And what then happens for a lot of people, they think, oh, well, I don't have the money. I'm just going to wait until I have the money. And then life hits and they just keep waiting and waiting. And it's kind of like a vicious cycle that I'm kind of seeing and noticing. The stress comes maybe more from the surprise of it than the actual, really more from the surprise of it than being irresponsible. It's not anyone's fault. The issue is the lack of education around the subject, right? Everyone wants to say, oh, you only need this much to get in the home. But then when it actually comes down to it and you start looking at numbers, if you don't do that up front, people really get caught and then they get discouraged. And then they end up just probably not even wanting to get a home. So some things to think about moving forward, knowing this. I feel like I've kind of talked in circles around a lot of this stuff and just the same thing over and over. But what you need to do is talk to a loan officer as soon as you can, and really just get a full, broad idea of what your total out-of-pocket cost is going to be, what your monthly payment's going to be, and make sure that you're happy with all of that and that you can actually afford all of that. Just because you're pre-approved for a certain amount of money does not mean you have to spend all that money. Most times I recommend not maxing out your pre-approval budget, because when we pre-approve, we're pre-approving you for, based on debt to income and all that kind of stuff. That's for a different video. But what you need to do is make sure that you can comfortably live with that mortgage payment. If you're a younger person or a younger family, if there's kids in the picture coming, in the future, keep that in mind. No one knows how much that stuff is going to cost. Obviously, I mean, things are rising, but if you know that you're going to have possible life changes coming up, my recommendation is to not max out any of your pre-approval unless you know for a fact that you can afford it. I've kind of gotten off track on that path, but I'm pretty passionate about it, because what I don't want to see is people hop in homes just because the headlines kind of pushed you into that, or you thought, all my friends are doing it or whatnot, and then you jump into it too early and you're not prepared. Now, honestly, I think very few people are 100% prepared before they buy a home. And that's perfectly fine. But what I don't want to see is people get in a home and the next thing you know, they can't make their payments, or they can't live the lifestyle that they did before, or that they dreamed that they would be able to live. So knowing your numbers early definitely will eliminate a ton of anxiety in the home buying process. And you know, at this point, it's your job to find someone to talk to. If you think home buying is in your future, it is a great idea to talk to someone sooner than later. If you want me to walk with you and kind of talk through your different scenarios, I have a link in the description that you can click. We can schedule a time and we'll have a little chat. And if this helped you, or if you think it might help someone that you know, please share this video with them. If you have not yet, like and subscribe to the channel. It's a new channel. I'm trying to get it going, but I'm just breaking stuff down so that people can plainly understand what it takes to buy a home and what that looks like. Y'all have a good one.